So in this video, I want to talk about the biggest mistake I made in business in 2025. I'm sitting here, it's now August 2026, and I'm now realizing that the biggest mistake I made in business last year was we did not take enough risks, plain and simple. We played it too safe, and we relied too heavily on what we know worked, and we did not test enough, nearly enough, and we did not take enough risks with ideas or our money. So I think it's important to know, especially if you're new or you're thinking about starting a business, or if you're new to business and you haven't figured this out yet, is that everyone thinks, or at least I did, of entrepreneurship as risky because of the initial phase, right? I was like, I always thought when I had a job, I was like, entrepreneurship, this is a risk because entrepreneurs quit their jobs and they take the risk and they try to make a business work. Now, what no one really tells you, and what you realize after you get a couple years in, and hopefully it doesn't take you a couple of years to figure this out, but the risk taking never ends. And that's the big thing that has changed my whole perception of all this, of running a business, is that you can't stop taking risks. You can, but you're not gonna grow. And you have to, if you wanna keep growing the business and getting to the next level, you have to keep taking risks. Whether that be with ideas, time, money, hires, you name it. But, because the thing about, the world and everything and like business is everything will entropy after a while. So what I mean by that is if you have a Facebook ad that crushes, right? It's only a matter of time before that ad stops working. And that goes with emails, that goes with, like any sort of thing in your business. It's not gonna work exactly like you have it working forever. And then some methods will last way longer than others. There are nuances to what I just said, but I wanted to share a little bit about a book I've been reading, The Bezos Letters. This book is awesome, by the way. I'm only about halfway through. I literally just started reading it a few days ago, but listening to it and reading it. But the first 3 principles in the book, so it goes through 14 principles, and the first 3 are all about taking risks. And what Bezos did with Amazon is he fostered a culture of taking risks and small bets throughout his whole company. So what they would do, instead of, because Bezos could have built the online bookstore, that grew very quickly. And he could have just, stayed there and been like, okay, we're making a ton of money with books. We sell books on the internet. Let's just keep doing what we're doing and just grow this. But what Bezos does, if you read about him and watch documentaries about him and listen to interviews about him, is that he doesn't do that. He constantly takes risks. So the book talks about a lot of the small bets. So his whole philosophy is take small, mitigated, hedged bets, not betting the whole business on one idea, but you take these small bets throughout the years and throughout the months, using some capital that's not going to kill you, some time or some ideas, and just encouraging a culture of failure. Because what that leads to is, let's say he makes 10 bets, whether one is free shipping, one is, trying to compete with eBay, one is X, one is Y, one is Z. 9 of those may not work, and 9 of them may lose them a few $100,000 or maybe even millions of dollars. But it talks about how it consistently, one will pay off. And once you realize that one of the tests is paying off, you just double down on it and just triple, quadruple down and just massively scale it up. And that's how you grow and grow your business and keep evolving with the times and staying ahead of the competition. So an example from our business of what I did poorly, or actually let me start with Bezos, right? So one example of Jeff's bets that paid off was he offered free shipping. And at the time, the book explains that was like a pretty crazy idea. But what he realized like obviously coming, and we'll get into more. I'll go into more of his principles too later, but in another video. But he puts a lot of focus on customer obsession, right? And he realized his customers have a lot of friction, or had a lot of friction around paying for shipping. So they would have an item, they would really like it, they'd go in the checkout line and maybe it would say shipping $4.99, and they go, you know, obviously they were tracking all of the consumer's behavior, and a lot of them would just not buy it because of the shipping. And one of those little bets he took was, he said, you know what, let's place a small hedge mitigated bet that if we cover free shipping, we'll make more money. If we cover shipping. So what he did is he offered, like, at first he took a small bet. So he basically said, if you want to put up with a longer time for shipping, so it was like, you know, the longer shipping route, like 3 to 5 days, we'll cover it for free. And what he found was so many people bought items on this free shipping deal that they made way more money. Even though they were spending money and risking short-term profits to cover the shipping, they would make way more money in the long term because way more people would buy the products on the free shipping. So what he did at that point, he realized, okay, you know, trying to compete with eBay over here isn't really working. And there's another tweak he made to actually end up making that kind of work very well, which I won't get into this video, but he realized that the free shipping idea was golden. Like it was working really well. So what he did was he created Amazon Prime. And it charged people, you know, 80 to 120 bucks a year, like 8 to 10, 12 bucks a month. You pay for the shipping, you pay for your membership, and then Amazon covers your shipping, right? And what he realized was Amazon Prime users, once they would sign up, which they got a lot of sales doing that, they would order way more stuff because they had free shipping. And the point of what I'm getting at is he tried a small bet, he hedged it, he tried it briefly with the longer shipping times. He realized it works, and then he massively took a huge bet, but it was a proven bet. And he created Amazon Prime, sold that, and obviously Amazon Prime, I'm a member, I'm sure a lot of you watching are members, and it is absolutely crushing it. And I think it's one of the best inventions ever, to be honest with you. So that's an example of a bet that paid off for him. But he made so many bets that did not. But the key is he encouraged a culture of failure. And they would try like a ton of experiments and you know, Einstein-like experiments. And I won't get into all this, but yeah, because like Amazon Prime wouldn't exist if they didn't take those risks, right? And yeah, I feel like I've made my point there. So one big problem we did one big mistake I made last year was we rely heavily on an email system, right, to book appointments for our clients. And we stayed in the same niche the whole year, and which is nothing wrong with that, but we didn't really change much, right? We knew the email system was working, we were making money, we were booking plenty of appointments, our clients were happy, and I got pretty comfortable. Not only did I get comfortable, but I didn't, as the person running the company, I didn't take any risks. We were making decent money, everything was working well, our clients were happy, and I just kind of sat back, stacked the bank account, and used none of it to take risks. What I should have done, and something I'm doing drastically differently now, is I'm taking excess profits we make that I don't really need. Instead of spending it on lifestyle or stupid stuff we don't need, or just saving it in the bank, I'm taking bets now. We're trying cold calling. We're trying Google ads. We're trying a different niche. And now I understand that we're probably going to lose a lot of money in the short term, like tens of thousands of dollars likely. And a lot of them, these experiments aren't going to work out. But I know that eventually we're going to hit one that works really well. And what we're going to do, as soon as we hit that, we're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down, and scale that up. And that will likely be a huge breakthrough for our business. So I wish I had the success story on that to share with you. I will gladly share it in a future video once I have one. But in the meantime, keep that mindset of always be just running experiments and just making these small little hedged bets in your business so that you can figure out what new idea works and then scale it up. Because everything entropy's over time. It's survival of the fittest in business, and if you just do the same thing over and over and over again, even if you're doing it well, and you never change anything, eventually it's going to stop working. So that's all I got.